The outdoor industry currently faces one of the biggest changes it's ever had, but the problem is we can't see it. Since the 1940s, us humans have been using PFAS, so forever chemicals, for lots of things in our world. And I'm here today to talk to you about the fact that it's been used in outdoor gear since then as well. However, currently there's a bit of a change going on. So firstly, you ask, what is PFAS? Well, I can hardly say it, so I've wrote it down here. PFAS is per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. The fact I can't say it, I don't think really matters. That's not what we're here to talk about. So the name sort of gives it away, doesn't it? Forever chemicals. These chemicals seem to stay in our environment basically forever and extremely hard to break down. They're found in our water sources, they're found in nature, they're found in the food we eat, and they're getting found in humans as well. There's loads of research going on at the moment and has been going on for the last few years about what damage this is actually doing. But it's quite clear there's a correlation between bad health with humans and the environment and animals. So basically this stuff has to go. Many different areas globally are having legislation made now that you cannot use PFAS in your garments going forward. And everyone else is going to follow suit because we all know what the damage it's doing. We have to get on board. And on that note, while you go forward looking for PFAS-free materials, which you'll see everywhere, you might find the wording a little bit odd. A lot of these brands are going to have to call it no intended added PFAS because, like I mentioned before, it's basically in our water, it's in our bodies, it's in everything. So even if they make a product that adds no PFAS to the world or to the product, it still may show up as having signs of it in there. We just need to make sure we don't add to that problem. Now this has caused a bit of an issue for the outdoor industry because of course lots of our products, whether it's a zip or a rucksack or mainly in this case waterproof jackets, really like forever chemicals for repelling water. But obviously the outdoor industry cares mainly about nature. Well, we all do anyway. And so we have to do something about it. So before I go any further, there's one thing I'd really like to say. I am no chemist, I am no scientist, I wouldn't say I'm particularly bright. I can't even pronounce the names we're talking about. What I do understand is what it means in our products and how it's going to affect our usage and what we have to do with them. And that's what I'm here to tell you about today. If you want to learn more about PFAS and what damage it's doing in the world and all that sort of thing, there's amazing videos out there with really clever people doing long documentary style videos. I suggest you watch those. I'm not going to go there today, but they're really interesting to listen to. So like I've already mentioned, the outdoor industry use PFAS for lots of things. It's not as simple as just waterproofs, but that is the main thing we're going to notice a difference. So I'm going to concentrate on that. Now, when I speak to people in the shop about forever chemicals and the fact they've got to go, they think it's as simple as, well, the brands just need to stop that tap that's pouring it into their products. It's not as simple as that. A lot of these PFAS chemicals get given away in the process of making their membranes, etc. So they've got to start again in many cases. So obviously the biggest name in the outdoor waterproof industry is Gore-Tex. I don't want to concentrate fully on that today because it affects everyone, but what you will hear is Gore-Tex's new membrane being mentioned quite a lot. Now that's EPE, expanded polyethylene. I can pronounce that bit. So that is going to be their new PFAS-free membrane going forward. So the most talked about area when it regards PFAS is water repellency. When I talk to people in the shop about the new things that are coming in the outdoor industry, they all go, oh, so they're not going to be as waterproof. That is not true. The membranes themselves will stay just as waterproof as before. However, it's the water repellency, i.e. the beading up, the running off sort of droplets that we like, that bit will be affected. Because that is the main thing people have used PFAS for in the past, so repelling moisture, dirt and all that sort of thing. If your jacket can't bead up and sort of have the droplets run off, it can't breathe very well, and so it's time for a wash and a reproof. So I just want to try and reiterate why it's so important to have your jacket beading up and have moisture running off it. So while the waterproof membrane's waterproofing capabilities won't change when the jacket wets out, what will change is the breathability and how you'll feel wearing the jacket. So if the outer face fabric, the bit that in this case is blue on the outer of the jacket, wets out, what happens there is it will change colour, it will darken, it will hold moisture. Now the problem with that is once that holds moisture, one, it'll block the pores up a bit, but two, of course, when your sweat, which is inside and hot, hits that colder layer of moisture, it will just condense and stay inside your jacket and you will think it's leaking, and particularly leaking where those damp patches on the outside are. Because I know I sweat a lot, but I've heard some stats which are pretty staggering, and we all sweat quite a lot, even if we're not moving. And if you're working hard, we sweat a a hell of a lot. And if all that moisture stays inside, you think your waterproof is leaking. And the other thing, even if we're not working that hard, when your outer layer is damp and it gets heavier and sits on you, particularly straight on your skin, you can feel cold and damp just because it's resting on you. So we want it to bead up and run away. So it's time for a wash and a reproof. We've just made a video about that. Make sure you watch it because it's extremely important, and even more so with these PFAS-free materials. So on that front, when I tell people in the shop you need to wash and reproof their waterproofs, I get a lot of people saying, but I've never done that and I've had my jacket more than 20 years. So those older jackets, say 20 years ago, 15 years ago, used to have lots of fluorocarbons and PFAS on them, so they repelled water really well. They're also doing a lot of damage to the environment, so they are now gone. However, even jackets that did have PFAS on needed washing and reproofing to get your sweat out, your grime out, and make sure it can bead up and really perform at its greatest. The new jackets without PFAS will need it more regularly, and take that with a pinch of salt. You need to wash this when you see fit. Some brands say like every 10 times you use it. I would say have a look at it. If it's not beading up, or if it's got dirty, or it's got sweaty and grimy from a big day's use, maybe it's time to give it a wash and a reproof. So when we have this chat, a lot of people go, oh, that's a shame, we've got to wash and reproof it more regularly. Well, we need to move on from that. This is the way it is now. We need to look after them better and make them last even longer. So if you never washed and reproofed your older jacket, I would say you still do it. With the new ones, make sure you do it even more regularly. And do remember, heat is its friend as well. It really helps reactivate that reproofer. Again, watch that other video. So other than the obvious advantage of the fact we're not putting any more PFAS into the world, there's quite a lot of other benefits about these new products. What you'll notice with most membranes, and including Gore-Tex, is they're finding ways of getting them much thinner. Now that's the actual membrane, sometimes within 3 layers. So face fabric, membrane, backer. But that membrane bit is getting thinner and often a lot more pliable. So jackets can feel softer, they can have a harder face fabric on them without adding the weight because the membrane's down. So there's lots of positives. I've also really enjoyed seeing lots of innovation from the brands, because sometimes it can get a bit stagnant. So not only are they working on new waterproof jackets and treatments, etc., but they're also working on whole systems so that breathability can be kept to a maximum, and ways you can just avoid wearing your waterproof if you don't need it. So over the last year or so, I've been using different products, some of the ones that still have PFAS in and some of the ones that don't. I think when you first get a PFAS-free waterproof, you kind of think, what's the big deal? It works exactly the same. This is great. Beads up, runs off, soft, pliable, nice and breathable, all that sort of thing. What is noticeable is that water repellency will rub off more quickly. But the good thing is, I would say, well treated properly with that washing, reproofing, tumble drying, all that, it's amazing how well it does come back. Just make sure you keep on top of it. So there's quite a few membranes out there that with this PFAS removal cannot be made anymore. So things like Gore-Tex, Shake Dry and Pack Light will no longer exist in the market. Now, I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing, because I always preferred the feel of a 3-layer jacket, and that had a backer on it. It was against the skin, pulling moisture away. And because of this new thinner EPE layer of membrane, they can actually make these jackets light, yet feel much nicer. So I really hope you found this video informative. Like I said, I'm not here to tell you all about the chemistry. I just want you to know how it's going to work in the real life. So if you take one thing away from this, make sure you wash and reproof your jacket.